So many of us struggle with anxiety. I myself, from time to time, struggle with anxiety. Those fear-based thoughts where all of a sudden you start to, honestly, almost feel like you're having a panic attack. In fact, I have had panic attacks in my life. And yet I know that this is not God's plan for me, that I would be overwhelmed with anxiety and live in a constant state of panic. No, that's not God's plan. And we all know that, but what do we do about the situation if you're in one of those waves of anxiety right now? Well, here are 6 Bible verses that have been key for myself, and I think they could help you too. The first is this, 2 Corinthians 10:5. We take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. And I want to pair this with another Bible verse, 1 Peter 5 verse 8, which says, be sober-minded and alert. The devil prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith. So here's how I want to pair those 2 verses together. The enemy is trying to plant these fear-based thoughts in our minds that you're a failure, you're not good enough, you'll never measure up, you're gonna die, that headache is really a brain tumor, your child is gonna mess up so bad they're gonna be sent to prison, your husband's gonna divorce you, and the list just goes on and on. Fear-based thoughts. And then you start to bite in those thoughts. Well, what if that happens? Oh my gosh. And now you're swirling around in anxiety. So these 2 verses work together here. We have to stop and go, wait a minute. I'm gonna take this thought captive. I'm gonna examine this thought. Does this sound like something God would say? No, this is from the devil. This is where we become alert to the devil's schemes. And I literally go like this, stop, I see you. And at the moment I out the devil that way in my mind and go, wait a minute, these thoughts, I'm not going to align my thoughts with the devil. I see what you're up to, not falling for it. The minute I do that, ladies, it's like his game is over. He almost has to give up because I'm on to his schemes. So the minute those negative, fear-based, horrible thoughts start entering your mind, you examine that and you say, does this sound like something God would say or something the enemy would say? And if it sounds like the enemy, you refuse to align your thoughts with the enemy. You say, I see you, not falling for it. Then what do? We start reminding ourselves of truths from the Bible. 4 key verses here. Isaiah 41:10, where God says, I am with you. I hold you by my righteous right hand. How comforting. And I envision God just being with me, holding my hand. How comforting is that? That I'm not doing this life by myself, that he's walking right beside me all the time. Next, Romans 8:28. Because sometimes we swirl around with, but what if this fear-based thing actually happens? What if I really do get cancer? What if my husband does divorce me? What if my kid does really mess up big time? What if? Well, Romans 8:28 is a great comfort because in this verse, God says that he works all things together for good for those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. And so I coach my soul with that truth and I remind myself, you know what? Even if this worst case scenario were to happen, God can bring something good out of this. He can bring beauty out of the ashes. That helps me to relax just a little bit. Also, Psalm 139, verse 16. This is the psalm that talks about how God formed us, created us in our mother's womb. And in verse 16 of that particular psalm, he says that all the days ordained for me were written in his book before one of them came to be. So God already knows how long my days will be. He already knows how long my husband's days will be. He already knows how long my children's days will be because he's already in the future. God's already awaiting me in the future. He already knows what's going to happen. He's there waiting for me in the future. That is comforting, is it not? He's not surprised and startled by the events in our lives. He already is in the future and sees what's going to happen. And that's a great comfort for me as well. And then finally, James 4:8, something very practical. It simply says, come near to God and he will come near to you. And so in that moment where we've rebuked the enemy and said, I'm not falling for your schemes, I'm not going to align myself with your thoughts, and we've reminded ourselves about truths from Scripture, then we simply draw close to God. It might be that you start listening to worship music in that moment, and you have to boss yourself around in this moment because you're self might be saying like, I'm gonna have a pity party, and you're gonna have to like boss around your feelings and say, no, I'm going to listen to worship music right now. That's drawing close to God, and then he'll draw close to you. I know of one woman who we just came up with this idea of her hugging a Bible, a literal Bible, as she goes to sleep at night. And it brought her great comfort. She was choosing to pivot from fear to draw close to God, and then he drew close to her. Whatever that is for you, pivot from the fear, turn toward God, and he will draw close to you.